Welcome to another episode of Hard Candy, the podcast that's designed to show honestly, if it is possible, to have hope in horrible situations. So I'm privileged today to have as our guest Pam Elliot, who has endured really an unimaginable series of physical and then emotional things that, frankly, I don't know how I would be able to get through it. And here she is, beautiful, gorgeous, inside and out. So I'm very excited that you're here, and I'm very eager to hear your story. So we'll see if we can fit it in 20 minutes.
Okay, good. That'll be great.
Okay, so let's just start at the beginning.
Okay.
Could you give just a brief summary of what happened to you? I know it was when you were 5, but can you tell us what happened?
Right. It was routine that my mother would put me down for a nap, and my grandmother would listen out for me. Grandmother and great-grandmother lived downstairs in a 2-story country frame home, and my bed sat at the top of that stairwell in the corner of the room. And Mother had put me down. She was walking up to her sister's house to borrow a vacuum cleaner to do some spring cleaning. It was April. And grandmother was out on the porch swing, which was just outside the door at the bottom of the stairwell. And usually I would get up and play, and she would come to the bottom of the stairwell, and she would say, "Young lady, you better get back in that bed." I was like, how does she know I'm up playing on these old creaky wooden floors?
That's where you get your spunk, from your grandma.
So this day, she heard noise. She was on the porch swing. She heard noise, came in the house, and the stairwell was blazing. She could not get up the stairwell. So she and great-grandmother, there was a pathway around the right side of the house that came up to the second-story entrance. And as she topped the hill, 2 young men had seen the smoke and pulled off the road. The house was, I don't know, probably not even 20 or 30 feet off of the highway. And so the older guy kind of corralled my grandmother, great-grandmother. He said they were just screaming, "My baby, my baby, my baby." And so they thought there was a literal baby in the house. Well, the younger fella, who was 16 at the time, came in the house and got me out. The front of the house was a bedroom on the left, living room on the right. The right doorway led to the kitchen. The left doorway led to the stairwell room. He went to the right first. He said the kitchen was engulfed. He could not. And so he came through the doorway, and he said it looked like I had just stepped out of bed. And he said, I just looked up at him and smiled. And he picked me up, put me on his shoulder, and they took me to the hospital.
So you weren't screaming or crying?
No, he said I never murmured, never said a word.
Wow.
No. There was a light bulb that hung down from the second story in those old houses, and I think the fire marshal determined that probably that light had shorted and dropped on that stairwell. And then with all that open space, it was only a matter of probably 20 minutes that it took for the house to burn to the ground.
So do you have a memory of that night, or is it just after they took you to the hospital?
Yeah, I remember being at the hospital. I remember them wrapping me up, and I remember asking for a drink of water, because, when you lose your skin, everything leaks out. So you just stay thirsty all the time. So I asked for a drink of water, and they gave me a drink, and I asked for some more, and they said, no, the doctor says you can't have any more. So that's all I remember about being in the emergency department as such. Yeah.
So what was the extent of your injuries?
I had third-degree burns over 50% of my body. Face, back, arms, hands, sides of my legs, tops of my feet. And at that time, they didn't really know how to treat burns. So my injuries were significant because they did not do any grafting immediately.
No kidding.
So my arms were contracted, my hands were severely distorted. Um, it was, um, yeah, they just didn't know how to treat burns. So they did. I think one thing that was instrumental in saving my life was they took me to the operating room every day to change my dressings. And I think that was significant, the sterile environment. And then eventually I progressed to the tub where they, dip you down in a big whirlpool tub. And then eventually just a bathtub. But yeah, there was no, I was in the hospital 3 months initially. So I got out in July. In November, I was admitted at the Shriners Hospital for Crippled Children, as it was called back then. There was a plastic surgeon on staff at that hospital, and he agreed to do my work. They had sent pictures there, and so my first stint in the Shrine, I stayed 9 months.
9 months?
Yes.
Wow. So I remember once you saying in passing that yes, the fire was really traumatic, but there were also the getting better was
Yes.
as every bit as traumatic. And if you don't feel like talking about it, you don't have
no,
to.
that's
but
fine.
could you
Well,
describe what you went through? I mean, I know you were only 5, but
Well, the issue is the fixing the burn is they take skin off of where you have skin and put it somewhere else. So not only do you have scars from the burns, you have scars from the treatment.
yeah,
But as a child, and I didn't even realize this until I was in my late 40s before I ever talked to a counselor. and I
which
just
is shocking in and of itself.
So, but the thing that he brought up that I had never even thought about was at that time, parents were not allowed to visit during the week. They could only visit on the weekends. The question that he asked me was, how many surgeries did I have during that 9 months? And I said, oh, I don't know. Man, let's just say 20. and then I had made the comment that during that 9 months, my mother had got to come and visit me twice. And so he was like, let's talk about, so you had all these surgeries. And then he went, no 5-year-old child should be without their mother when they're having surgery. And I went, well, that's right, they shouldn't. But at that time...
But it took you till 40
Oh,
to
yeah. I'd never even thought about that. I just said, I'd made the comment that I thought that was what had made me so ferociously independent. And he just shook his head. And I was like, what are you shaking your head about?
Huh.
But, yeah, it had never crossed my mind until that point when he brought it up.
Right,
Yeah.
because you don't think, because that's just
how
how life was.
Mm-hmm.
So the reasoning for them not allowing the parents other than weekends had some kind of
correct.
therapeutic value.
They didn't want us to be pitied. So that was their thinking. Yeah.
And part of that, part
can
of
be
that
true.
you get, but
Yeah.
not being without your mom for all that.
Yeah, because she was, the hospital was in Kentucky. We lived in West Virginia. So, and she worked. So it's not like she could travel every weekend. I mean, she just came when she could. And, the nurses called and gave her reports. I mean, she knew what was going on. But, yeah, and probably for me, the repeated process of the surgical day was... Now I look back on it and then I just remind myself, you were a child. But in the Shrine, we went to school every day. We got up, we put on our dresses, we went to breakfast.
No kidding.
We went to school, or they pushed the beds or the wheelchairs down to a schoolroom. There were older kids, younger kids, classrooms. And we would come back for lunch, we would take a nap, we'd go back to school, and then after that, we did our physical therapy or, that kind of stuff. So they tried to make it as much like home as possible, We went to church on Sunday. One of the Shriners owned the downtown movie theater, so we got to see all the Walt Disney movies, and they brought us popcorn.
Yeah.
So they tried to make it as much like home as possible.
Huh.
So that was another reason for, parents not visiting. You're not going to interrupt the school day.
Yeah.
So anyway, but.
Okay, that's interesting to me. So after the 9 months, then you go home. So then, but then, how long did you stay home? Do you remember?
No, I know that I went back during my 3rd grade year. I remember that specifically because my scalp was burned, and they shaved my head and took out like diamond-shaped portions of my scalp to pull it up so that I would have hair. And I remember in the 3rd grade, I think I actually had my head shaved twice. But I distinctly remember that, but I'm not really, I don't have a timeline as to how many times I was
it's
in
all
and
one
out.
big blur.
Yeah,
Well, how
exactly.
did the kids react to you once you got home?
Well, it's interesting, I grew up in a little rural community in southern West Virginia, outside the booming metropolis of Beckley. And our house sat on the main thoroughfare through that town. I mean, I know people who, to this day, remember seeing it because the school buses all went by that route. And it's still like it there today, and so everybody knew about it. And so people find it truly amazing. But during my school years, grade school, junior high, high school, nobody ever made fun of me or called me names. Not ever. It never happened.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, I had people stare at me, but, that's just to be expected.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing in today's world.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I say that my little rural community protected me.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with the revolving door of hospitalizations? Because that was a significant part of your life for a long time.
Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was. Even through college, yes. But it was just, I don't know, it was just a matter of fact. My mother was very, she was just very candid and very forthright. And there was not pity in our house. And she just said, you're just like any other little girl, and you can do anything any other little girl can do. And so, when your parent tells you that, you believe that.
Yeah.
So that I just did what everybody else did. And, I didn't consider myself to be any different. And I distinctly remember, for the longest time, they had me carry an umbrella with me everywhere to keep the sun off of me. And I remember shopping with Mother. And I distinctly remember this man staring at me. And I didn't think, what's wrong with me? Why is he staring at me? I didn't think that.
Wow.
I thought, didn't that man's mommy teach him not to stare? Doesn't he know that's not nice?
Wow. Like, what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
That he's being like
Rude.
that?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So, but the staring, there were like a couple of incidences. I worked in a little grocery store, and there was a mother that would come in with her 5-year-old child, little girl. And as soon as she came in, she would start, Mommy, what happened to that lady? And her mother would shush her. So one day I was in the aisle putting up cans, and this little girl got away from her mommy, and she came running down the aisle, and she grabbed a hold of my smock, and she said, Lady, I just have to know what happened to you. And I knelt down in front of her, and I said, how old are you? And she said, I'm 5 years old. And I said, well, when I was 5 years old, I was taking a nap, and my house caught on fire, and I got burned, and it was an accident. It wasn't anybody's fault. Nobody was playing with matches. Okay, lady, bye.
That's all she needed to know.
Yeah, kids just want to know. Now,
Right.
adults,
Yeah.
one day I was slinging groceries, and, this is when you had to type in the price of everything. And there was this guy in his bibbed overalls, waiting on his wife to finish shopping. And usually, it's just according to what kind of mood I'm in the day, whether I ignore you or whether I catch your eye. And this day, I caught his eye. Because I'm like, you're a grown man, and you're sitting here gawking at me. And so I caught his eye, and he knew he'd been caught.
Yeah.
And then he said, my God, lady, what happened to you? Did you get burned up?
No, he didn't.
Oh, yes, he did. And
So what'd you do?
So, I was just like, I'm such a smart aleck sometimes. I wanted to say, no, I'm just a figment of your imagination. But I said, yes, I got burned up. And then, very next thing he said to me was, well, you sure are awful pretty.
Oh.
I'm just like, what do I do with that? I'm like, I'm going to knock your lights out, and now I want to hug your neck.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah. But yeah, people, most of the times, I would just ignore people, but there were times when I would catch your eye.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I haven't known you like, we don't see each other every day or every week, but we've traveled in some of the same circles, and I have always experienced you as, ebullient and full of joy. You're hysterical. You're like no nonsense kind of thing.
Yeah, no nonsense.
In a good way, not in an up your nose kind of way.
Yeah.
But if I were to put myself in your shoes, I know I would have gone through a path of why me?
And yes.
So did that ever happen with you?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
And then
oh, my
tell
goodness,
us a little bit about that.
Well, as a child, like I said, you believe, my grandmother, my mother has said, honey, this happened to you for a purpose. Well, my senior year, I applied to go to PA school, physician's assistant, and they required an interview. So summer of my junior year, I went up and talked to the registrar and his associates. The fall of my senior year, I got a letter asking me to come back for a second interview. So I'm like, ooh, baby, I'm in.
Yeah.
So my mother was supposed to go with me. She couldn't, so a friend went with me. And I walked in the room. There was this rectangular table with 3 people seated there. And they were the medical people that was on the board that reviewed these applications. And so they began to tell me that people naturally have a fear of doctors. And since I would be meeting patients initially to obtain their health history, they felt that my physical appearance would instill a deeper fear within the patient. I was 17 at the time. And that was the very first time in my life that anybody had ever said anything ugly to me like that. And I just remember in my brain going, thank you, God, thank you, God. I must have said it 10 times. Thank you, God, that my mother is not here.
She'd be arrested for
there
murder.
would have been a brawl.
Yeah.
So my life was directed a completely different way. Voc Rehab said they were paying for me to go to college because I had, quote unquote, crippled hands. I don't have any end joints, and I've got a little stiff finger and a little crooked finger. But I grew up that way. So, I accommodate quite well.
Yeah, you got the dexterity.
Yeah, I can play the piano and type and crochet and knit and sew and do all that stuff. So my life was directed to Bible college. And in my mind, in my brain, I knew that is where I was supposed to be. But in my heart, I did not want to be there. And I just became this very bitter, angry, on the inside woman.
because it was precipitated by that thing, and that just spun you in a
it was
different
just
direction?
like, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I want to be. I'm supposed to be there. And so one day at lunch, this very charismatic guy, I had put my lunch tray down, and he comes up and says, mind if I eat lunch with you? And I'm like, no, Bill, have a seat. And he literally smacked the table with his hand and said, praise God, ain't it a wonderful day? Don't we serve a loving God? Well, for me, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, I don't think so. I said, you tell me why your God took a little 5-year-old girl and nearly burned her to death. I don't call that love, do you? And suddenly, he was at a loss of words.
Yeah.
So he went and talked to the Dean of Women, and I got a note in my mailbox, and I threw it in the trash. I'm just like, I don't know her. I'm not talking to her.
Yeah.
And then I got a second note that said if I failed to appear before a faculty member at their request, that I could be dismissed from school. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to have to talk to this lady because my mama would kill me if I got kicked out of school. And she was a very sweet lady, and, you know, she said, I understand you're having some problems. And I said, no, ma'am, I'm not. I mean, I was just a little snot. And she said, well, we need to pray. And I said, you go ahead. I was just like, I ain't having this.
Knock yourself out. Yeah.
I'm just like, here at Bible college. So at this point, I mean, I was a very good student. And so I was alone in my room one night. My roommates were gone. And so I got out my syllabus for my Old Testament class. And it said, read through the book of Jeremiah. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, so I'm reading, and I come across Jeremiah 18, verse 4, which says, and the vessel that he was making was marred in the hand of the potter. So he remade it again as seemed good to him. And I was undone. I was undone. I mean, I sat on my bed and sobbed. And I said, I hear you. I hear you. You are the potter. I am the clay. And you have reshaped me and remade me. And it might not seem good to anybody else, but it's good to you because you are the potter and I am the clay. And I knew exactly what that scripture was talking about, because right across the one-lane road from my house was a creek. And my most favorite thing in the whole wide world was making mud pies as a little girl. Yes. So that's, I mean, I was just obliterated. And so my anger, I wanted to take all the anger and bitterness back at that point. But that, I say, forever changed me. And so then I began to ask more questions about why all the surgery, why all the pain, why all that. Well, I comfort you so you can comfort others. So there's been multiple people that I have been able to speak to in the burn unit, and just sometimes just out in public where you meet people. So it's just been an incredible life that I have been given. And I think it was back in, I don't know, 2009, a gal asked me to go to Washington. And I was like, what?
Like D.C., Washington?
Yeah, like Capitol Hill, Washington. Yeah, to lobby for a, you know, I go once a year now. We just lobby for anything related to fire safety. So, and I have traveled all over this country and Canada sharing my story and promoting home fire sprinklers.
Wow.
So,
Plus, you're a nurse. You were
yes,
a nurse.
I were, yes.
Yeah.
For, yes, a long time. Yes,
So,
and I retired.
Between that and then getting help with counseling to kind of fillet you so that you can go the depths of, okay, here's another place for surrender.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
So
never...
you're not hard.
No,
Yeah,
no.
it's
And
just
I never
strong.
dreamed that in my nursing career, I would be flying around in a helicopter.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's just pretty
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just been incredible. The life I've been given and the people I've been able to meet. And a couple of years ago, I was able to sit down and talk with the guy who rescued me. And that was amazing. It was amazing. He was 16 years old at the time. And he came in that house and got me out. And he and his cousin drove the car that took me to the hospital. And it was such a delight to be able to just share with him the life he had given me. And I had talked to him just briefly when I was in my 30s, and I realized at that point, what the rescuer goes through. Because when I first met him initially, he just looked right at me and said, I have to tell you, I never wanted to meet you.
Aw.
He said, I can close my eyes and see you as you were that day. And I was just like, oh my word.
Yeah.
So I was speaking in my hometown at a senior citizen center, and his cousin ran the center. And so I asked him, I said, would you please ask him if I could just talk to him one more time? I really want him to see the life he gave me. So I went to his house and sat down and talked to him, and I recorded it, so I have it. It was just a sweet time for him to see,
Yeah.
the life I had been given because of him.
Right.
And I found it interesting that very few people knew about it. Very few people. He never told his mom and dad.
He needed counseling too.
Oh my
really.
goodness, yes he did. Yes he did.
So that's another part of the hard candy for him.
Yeah.
Even though it was such a good thing, he paid a cost.
Oh yes,
for
he did.
it. But then to see you being able to get back together to show
Yes.
the sweetness of it, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I have. We took a picture that day of him hugging me. It was so sweet. Yes, sweet. Yes.
Well, I knew this was going to be hard because there are plenty of other questions I want to ask you, and we are out of time.
Okay.
But my question is there anything else that we haven't hit that you would really like to say?
Yes. I don't allow this to define me. I don't allow these scars to define me. Who I am is in my mind and in my heart. And I just think that's vital for people who are going through hard stuff, just to know that, that this hard time does not define who you are. It doesn't.
That's yet another beautiful thing about you, Pam. So thank you so much for sharing that story with me and with us, too.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Are you kidding me?